Starting your own practice is hard for many chiropractors. It's riddled with both struggles and successes. But here at the Chiropractic Philanthropist, we make it easy by having chiropreneurs and entrepreneurs share their struggles and lessons learned in life and business so that you don't have to make the same mistakes. And now here's your host, Dr. Ed Osborne.
How much better would your life be if you could practice by choice because you had multiple passive streams of income supporting you? Go to moneyripples.com or find their podcast, The Chris Miles Money Show, to learn more.
So, let's do this the way we're supposed to. So this is actually supposed to be a podcast. This is the Laptop Lifestyle Podcast relaunching. And one of the reasons why I actually invited you, Dr. Ryan Doyle, onto the podcast is because, even before we get on this discussion right now is, one thing I've observed in knowing you personally, knowing you professionally is and knowing you, following you online now too, is that, dude, you're like freaking, you're relentless. There's never a moment I've ever seen where you just go, you know what, I'm done, I'm folding, I'm out. So that's really where, my hook to the podcast today is I want to inspire a lot of people who are listening, a lot of doctors who need some inspiration in their life right now and their business. And let's start with the discussion. I mean, I know you well. Why don't you tell us, in a sentence or two, tell us a little bit about you.
About me and the process, or me and just me in general, Doc?
What, a sentence or two?
Whatever.
Who is the essence? What is the essence of Dr. Ryan Doyle?
All right. Well, listen, I think that if I can tie into how you introduced me and being relentless, I think the one thing that I've been blessed with is kind of a blue collar work ethic. Once I've got my meat hooks into something, I don't stop. But that took a long time. It took a long time for me to process what the heck I wanted to put my meat hooks into. So it took a lot of trial and error. And for me, it took a lot of pain. So you and I have had lengthy discussions about kind of what brought each of us into things like the warrior game, you and I have taken leaps into professional and personal growth that most people, I don't think, well, a lot of people have. Let's put it that way. A lot of people dive into this stuff. We had our own pain, and I was at a place in my life where I was at a complete crossroads where I was literally burning it down. From the outside, it looked like I had it all set up. We have the multi-million-dollar practices, and the families are doing great, and 2 kids and a beautiful wife and all this kind of stuff. But as much personal growth I did and the more successful I became, the more I recognized that I was still dying on the inside. And it took me almost 10 years, Doc, to recognize that I was not hitting the mark. And that's where I really started to dive into where the heck do I need to go? And as much as I love my career within my box, within my brick and mortar, within that lifestyle, there's pieces of it that I still adore today. My message from an inside it started when I started teaching for the Pedabons years and years ago. Yep. And I needed to get out and teach. And there's platforms now where you can still stand on a stage and teach to hundreds, maybe even several hundreds of people. But the platform it's still small compared to the reach that I was witnessing. Mentors that I have, like yourself and several of the other guys I work with. And I just knew that I had to make a course correct. I feel quite blessed in that coming out of Warrior, kind of tailing behind you and I were able to connect on several levels that way. And part of our missions kind of overlapped a little bit. And, I feel extremely blessed that I've been able to step in and kind of take over the lead that you had implemented. And now my voice is becoming, I've been enabled to get my voice out there and share it with a larger audience. And yeah, I can dive into more of the details behind what it is that we're teaching within the Freedom Formula and Men of Iron at this time. But that's kind of the nutshell of the journey that I've been on, Doc.
Yeah, and I want to give and part of our purpose here is because we're going to have a lot of chiropractors that are listening, a lot of small business owners, entrepreneurs, essentially, that are listening, professionals even. And, one of the things I want to do is really give them the idea of the journey and the reality behind the journey, the transparency behind it. Because a lot of what you said, and I'll pull from what you're saying, is that we all got the pretty package on social, right? Everything looks really good. However, I don't know about you, but like the last fucking year has been a shit show for me. And so personally, there's been some rocky territory. And I want to pull from what you're saying here again too. And one of the things that you'd mentioned was, Garrett J. White and Wake Up Warrior. And so, what was it that with Garrett that attracted you to his message and attracted you to Garrett? I mean, there's a lot of mentors out there. There's a lot of coaches and a lot of bullshit too. So what was it about Garrett's message and I guess Sam Falsey as well that attracted you?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I'm definitely attracted to more of a physical nature of things. Garrett's story was very similar and aligned with who I was, burning his life down. I had it all, burned his life down, had to rebuild. And I just liked the aspect of when the house of cards falls down, it's not just your business falling down. It's also your relationships falling down. It's your body falling down. Like for me, my biggest pit, Doc, was all of those things falling down. So what attracted me the most was that he was teaching married businessmen to rebuild their foundation four-dimensionally as opposed to unilaterally, and then just burning it down over and over on a cycle, on a broken record. And I think that was the piece beyond all, was I wanted to learn more about my business. I wanted to get out of this mental incarceration that I was stuck in. But more importantly, I also wanted somebody that had the audacity, if they needed to kind of kick my ass, both inside and out. That's pretty much who I am to a T. Is I like to be able to challenge myself mentally and physically. And that's why I was most attracted to it.
I remember, years ago when I can't even remember how I stumbled on Garrett. I think I stumbled on Garrett on social, on Facebook. And I actually was messaging. I have some of the messages still in Facebook Messenger, messaging back and forth when he was doing his Warrior Week, like within the first 10. And I remember listening to his podcast and how different it was from what it is today. I don't really tune in as much anymore. I try not to pollute the well. So I remember like listening and it was very Christian based, very edgy, right? And then how it's evolved to where I don't know how many hundreds and maybe 1,000 of podcasts or audios he's done now. So, I mean, you've gone through a similar type of evolution. I mean, you were attracted to Garrett's message and to the Warrior message. You went to Warrior Week. You experienced the physical pain, the emotional pain, and the breakthrough. And then you come through that, and then you decide, eventually it sounds like you're like, okay, man, I'm all in. I'm doing the work, and I'm going to become someone who's certified in training this. And then you started working on doing the training. And what was the difference for you when being coached to becoming a coach? What was the difference for you? Like, do you find like, well, I'll let you answer that question. What's the difference for you?
It's a great question. Because I think that when you're being coached, okay, you're learning processes and you apply the processes, and then your brain says, okay, I got this shit. Okay. And then you go to teach it, and you start to recognize that not everybody is designed the same way as you are. They don't look through the same lenses. And then all of a sudden you're challenged beyond what you think you are, because you think that if you just go and repeat what it is that your coach has told you, that away you go and everything is jolly. I'm sure you see this within the online space. So what's been fascinating for me is that transitioning into coaching, I've had to learn not only the procedures and the tools that I've learned from not just Garrett, but many of my mentors. And then at the same time, I've had to sit there and go, how is it that I now reach people that need to hear my fucking message. Right? So inside of me, I've got the reason why I'm relentless is that I'm extremely passionate about what it is that I'm doing. Like I know I got to get this message out, and damn me if it's going to fall on deaf fucking ears, because I'm going to get it out there. But I think the reality that hits any of us that are trying to get out of the space is that we figure that as soon as we start podcasting, YouTubing, Facebooking, that it's just going to go ding, ding, and away we go, cranking on the horns. Man, I did exactly what Dr. Ed, I did exactly what Garrett did, and in 3.5 months, baby, gravy train. Ain't that way, man. It just ain't that way.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, one of the other things too, and I mean, maybe we can kind of use this as a segue into the freedom formula, is it's, we have these other coaches, these other mentors, these people who, and by the way, I've been coached and I've paid a lot of people a lot of freaking money. And what I do notice is that, I mean, there's a lot of interlocking in terms of like crossover of like, Jesse Elder, one of my early coaches, and Garrett, and strategic coach with Dan Sullivan. I mean, there's crossover. Russell Brunson, there's crossover in all of their programs. A lot of but the language is kind of a little different. The vernacular. So, I mean, now you've been able to take what you've learned from so many of your mentors and coaches, and now you've created this, freedom formula. So tell us a little bit about the freedom formula. What's the secret sauce here?
Yeah, I mean, great question. And I appreciate you asking. I mean, ultimately, just like any of those coaches, mentors, and gurus that you just mentioned, from Dan Sullivan to Garrett to, just about everyone that's done it to the point of becoming successful has just, what I've noticed, there's a series of things that they do well, and everything else they just don't. And right. And what I've collected is just a series of things that work extremely well for, married entrepreneurial business parents, I'd like to say. I mean, Garrett J. White talks about the married businessman. I've actually found in my niche, I actually help more women than men, which is odd, because I thought, hey, I'm probably going to help men because that's who I am. It's really turned out that there's the business parent, it really needs some help. So what's the secret sauce? The first thing that I have learned without a shadow of a doubt is that regardless of where you're starting, if you're one of these business parents, if you will, right now, is that you have to look at where the hell you are, and you have to gain some level of clarity on where it is that you even want to go. Just about every time I ask somebody that is asking for help, I want more of this, I want more success, I want more money, they actually don't know where it is that they want to go. I don't know how many times I've heard you ask it. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go, Doc? To hundreds of people that have watched you interview. And there's this glaze that comes over. That clarity and the ability to be honest with yourself and tell the truth, as I use a Garrettism, is number one. The second thing that I've observed from most of our mentors is they have exceptional habits. Now, you call me relentless. Well, I've learned that from Garrett to some of the other mentors that I use. What Garrett does very well is he talks about his core four and his daily habit. I call it habit traction, or my engine. So there's daily habits for body, for your fulfillment, relationships, and your business. Not just one thing. And it's a relentless process that they teach. So I credit, you're calling me relentless, but I really credit Garrett for instilling that.
The habits.
Right? It's habits. And if you want traction anywhere, if you want to lose weight, if you want to get, better health, if you want a bigger car, whatever it is, your habits can't be once a month. Your habits can't be every once in a while. They've got to be, the mindset needs to be consistency. And that's one of the biggest ones. The third thing that I've really started to observe is that my gurus have a clarity. Most of them have a significant clarity that I couldn't explain. I've watched you for a long time. You'd shift around to a couple things, but then it's like you could see the glasses start to really magnify. And so what I've learned is that we each look through a lens that's unique to ourselves. John DeMartini, for example, and Nima Ramani call it the values determination. Larry Goodman talks about it. I've learned to process that a little bit so that I can help people just to be able to look through their own damn lens and go, oh my God, that's what fills me up. Because sometimes we're just on this incessant search of dopamine and oxytocin, endorphin, all these different things, but we don't know exactly what it is. So there's a bit of a process to distill that, to gain clarity. You and I have taught on the next level above that. You and I have taught some of Garrett's tools, the stack, for example. We've taught Byron Katie does the work. Nima Ramani does the overview experience. John DeMartini, the DeMartini method. Like, just about everybody that has taken their game to the next level asks themselves questions on a deeper level on a regular basis that is a game changer. And I know you're going to bring some of this into your life in the next little while. So, I mean, I teach a slightly different variant of all of that so that you can just stay focused on line with your values and your mission. But I didn't realize how important that type of work was until, again, I started doing it daily. Just like people that come into your chiropractic practice when they're in pain, I was just asking myself hard questions only when I was in pain and didn't understand the balance and the connection there. That's been another saving grace for me. When there's been shiny objects or when there's been significant crises and challenges, using these types of questions and tools on a regular basis just keeps you focused. That it's the only way. Next thing is daily and weekly habits or more weekly habits for staying aligned, including relationship habits. Yes. And the last one is talking about having the last two principles that I have observed in my mentors and coaches is a level of accountability. Just about every one of them has a coach, a mentor, somebody to hold their feet to the fire. It doesn't even necessarily mean somebody that's super expensive. It could just be somebody that's been where you want to go, that's willing to hold your feet to the fire. That is a non-negotiable. And last but not least, having targets that are aligned with your values has been a significant discovery for me. Because every time I would set up a target that I thought was significant, but wasn't using my lenses, it's funny, I just couldn't hit it. That's one of the most significant things I've watched in most of my mentors. But listen, those are the principles that I have observed amongst just about every single person that's taken their game to the next level. If you could just implement like 2 or 3 of those principles, I guarantee you your game would change. But you got to have clarity, consistency, perseverance, and you got to have that passion inside of you through your own lens.
So it's like basically, and I mean, it really boils down to one question, and it's answering what is it the fuck? Like, what the fuck do you want? What do you want? And then so clarity, really. And then the next piece of that would be just how do we set targets, like realistic targets and outcomes so that we can achieve that and have a system behind it. I don't know about you, but I need a system. I have to be systematic in this stuff. And then the next part of this is just, so know what you want, set clear targets. And then the last part of this, and I'm taking from it, is accountability. That's coaching. So it's so funny too, because I have so many people will say to me, they really don't understand what a coach does. And I think a good coach, number one, holds people accountable, but number two is tell people, will show people like a play, like they run a play, like go here, do this, come back and tell me how it went. And they hold, and they're like, okay, well, no problem, no judgment. Now just go run this play. And they just continually help you by running the play. And I find a lot of people have challenges with that. Now I want to bring the conversation around to sales and marketing. Okay, because I'm observing you, probably at least for the last 8 weeks, maybe 90 days or more, especially with all this shit that's been going on in the world. And I know that you've really kind of amped up your messaging and marketing. So what is it like that you've noticed has been the most effective in terms of, and I'm not talking about your brick and mortar practice. I'm talking about, Freedom Formula. I'm talking about Men of Iron, Women of Iron. I know that you're crushing it in that space. I know that you've recently done a webinar, but what is like one or two things that you really dialed up that can help any, aspiring online entrepreneur or business owner right now?
Great question. I mean, I think you said it earlier that when you get, maybe it was before we even got on, that when you enter into a space, you got a clear idea, you got a little seed, and then you plant it, and you realize like there's a lot of roots and tentacles that are birthed from that seed. I think what I've done well is I've gotten my ideas and my concepts clear. I've stuck to my guns. I haven't talked about 78 million different things. I've chosen the direction that I'm going. That's number one. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard that, but it only makes sense when you start to recognize.
I don't see you talking about Trudeau or Trump or any of that shit. I mean, you're very focused on one message and you keep it very aligned.
That's it. I mean, the thing is that once you start to see that, all those other things become distractions and just a different form of sedation. So other tips that I would give people is, at some point in time, you have to have, I know, and you know this, I'm raw. So, I mean, if you listen to me, whether it's my podcast or you listen to anything that I do, I know that I'm raw, and I like to call myself, I know that it's somewhat belittling, but I like to call myself the modern day troglodyte and a little bit of a Neanderthal. It's just who I am. So for me, being able to take my message that I believe so strongly inside of me and being able to package it in the right way that can be consistently portrayed so that people can kind of get it, see it, read it, and do something with it has been it's been the thing that has changed what I've done.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't like, I know from working, like doing Men of Iron, Women of Iron events and having Justin, our incredible producer, do video. I mean, some of those videos talk about raw. I mean,
I have maybe 2 words that I enjoy saying on a regular basis, Doc, and you know exactly what they are.
Well, that was my next. I'll come to that in a second. That's my next question. But it is true though, is sometimes you have to get raw. Sometimes like it's what raw is what people need, because most people are still like so people are lying to themselves, right? And they're lying to other people, right? So most people are in this fantasy land, and then they're wondering why they're not getting what they want in life. I mean, so you have to wake them up, use Garrett's term. So yeah. Okay. So that's my next question is like, what's the one curse word, favorite curse word that you use for motivation? I've heard so many. I've heard so I've heard a lot of them.
No, it's definitely the F-bomb. It is my favorite, and
we'll roll the video.
Yeah, totally. You can say it and use it in so many different ways. I absolutely am in love with that word, and I have a very difficult time hanging around populations of people that cannot utilize it in multiple ways within their conversation. Short and sweet is the F-bomb, my friend.
I mean, and here's the thing too, and I used to really kind of like mentally masturbate over that too, is like, that because I would get people like, trolling on any sort of, like, I used to be a lot more raw in the past. And if I ever used, explicitives and things like that on my posts or in my email, I would get feedback. I would get, it's just feedback. But some of the feedback I would get is like, okay, well, you can't express yourself in such a way that's intelligent enough that you can't, like, without using, words that are offensive. But now I just realize that's just who I am, man. Like anyone who's around me, except my kids, like I swear a lot. I mean, that's just how I I am.
And you know what? I mean, here's part of it too, is I get the criticism of language and attracting a certain clientele, but the reality of it is most of us are looking to attract people that are at least somewhat similar to us, Ed. And I think that, again, I am naturally not, I don't attract people that don't have the ability to at least get gnarly with their language every once in a while. And I think that it goes both ways. So I'm not offended by people that don't love my language or love the way that you've spoken in the past. I'm just going to be honest. It's going to come out of me. And there's times where I am not going to hold back. The end.
Yeah.
I'm on your team on that one, man.
So I'm going to kind of summarize a little bit of, and just pull again from the conversation. I mean, so part of this, whether it's in business or life, is it's, building good habits that are moving you actually forward or not keeping you stagnant in where you are. Having clear targets, having clarity, knowing what you want, again, in business and in life.
Yeah.
And then when we turn the conversation into sales and marketing, from what I see with you is like, again, using the word relentless is like, you just do more, or you just are consistent is, I guess, what would be the word, is like you're on the lives, I see you all doing interviews. I mean, you realize that no matter what, it's not about how many people are listening. Like, I mean, there's some people are going to be listening to this and maybe not thousands or hundreds of thousands of people. I mean, but it's about who is listening versus how many.
Sure.
And then just if we go a little bit deeper, just take away another surface of the marketing and the sales. So are you finding, the people that you're working with that you're getting these transformations in their life and business, are they coming to you via your Facebook Lives? Are they coming to you from your email list? Is it mostly through webinar marketing? Which of those would you say is the most effective?
To be honest, at this point in time, I'm doing everything organically. So I'm not doing a lot of like paid push. I'm not doing a lot of, I'm really not going out after cold audiences. So, I mean, you taught me this a long time ago, that the generic sales cycle is somewhere between 6 months to 18 months. When they first hear your voice, they find out about you, then they might step in a little bit, but the first time that they're even willing to buy or take something from you is anywhere within that window. And that may have changed because I know that you pay attention to the details. But most people that are following are just, they can't not hear me because I'm out there, right? Yeah. And so it's sometimes people have said that they've heard me from one of their friends who's shared one of my emails that have gone out from a YouTube thing that I did, or from a Facebook post that I did, or I've been pushing more and more people into the Freedom Formula group so that there's just one place more and more that I can have an interaction. I find it very difficult trying to pay attention to more than one area. But when people start to listen to you and follow you, what I'm learning is that if I can put them into a tribe area, then I can have a bigger impact. That's what I'm learning and then I will watch people even within the group. Sometimes they talk, sometimes they communicate, and I've had to just shut that part of my brain off to looking for the dopamine hit. And then all of a sudden somebody out of nowhere asks a question and joins into the conversation. That's what I'm observing.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and I mean, here's the thing about, coaching. What I've learned about like the coaching space is, at least it's always been this way for me, is I've always felt it like I've always aspired to have more of a boutique style. Like, here's the thing is, someone said to me the other day, they go, shit, don't take this personally. This is just business. And then I thought about it and I go, you know what? You're right. Like, this is just business. And then the next day I woke up and I thought about it again and I go, fuck that. No, this is personal. You know why? Because I take business personally. I give a fucking shit. Like, I care. So there's no way, like, I know a lot of doctors especially are going to hear this and they're going to feel the same way, because I used to have patients who would discontinue care and I would mentally just go, what happened? I don't understand. The whole family was coming in. Everything was so great. Like, and so you really just never know. So that's my little add to this is like, and I know this is part of, I guess, kind of link this into this conversation with you, is that I know, and I feel this from you, is that it's always personal for you. Like you are, like you got these people's back, man. Like, I mean, I think there was only ever one time in, I don't know how long it's been, 2 years, that we've known each other, that you just kind of shut down for like 2 days and didn't respond to people.
Every once in a while I will sit on a beach, but I do not sit on the beach very well, Ed. You're right. And no, I think that if there's anything that you know about me, it's I am more probably to to my own drawback. I'm more involved with seeing people get the work and succeed in their life than probably I am myself.
Yeah.
I just, that's my weakness, I would say.
Yeah. And if you could say, like, I mean, there was a way that, anyone who might be hearing this message, and whether it's, right now live, or it's, 2 months from now, and they could connect with you in some way, like, what's the best way to reach you?
Easiest and the best way for me right now is just through Facebook Messenger, Dr. Ryan P. Doyle. That's the easiest way. If you can see this, you can see the freedom formula. I like specifically spell it with 2 E's instead of 2 3's instead of 2 E's, just to grab your attention more than anything else. But that's the easiest way to get a hold of me. I would say on social media right now.
Okay. And if there was one thing like that you could have, a listener go and do, and I'm not talking about like the best book you've ever read. Okay. I'm talking about like something that you've done recent, maybe even the last 4 weeks, whether it's, you listened to a podcast, you read a book, something that was business related that got you some momentum. What would that recommendation be?
What's the piece that's given me momentum? So you know what? That's actually quite such a deep conversation. I'm going to give this guy a plug because he probably helped shift me more in a short period of time than almost any of my mentors coming through this. But I worked intensively with Dr. Nima Ramani for about 3 months, and I was so blocked and emotionally constipated about something. And I just highly recommend, if you can listen to his trigger proof stuff, it's a game changer for inside of the brain. That's my one little thank you very much. Needed to do that one. Yeah. Great question.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Okay. So listeners, actually, we don't have a website yet. So when we do have a website, I'll send you over to the website. Maybe we'll insert that here. But if you're listening right now, please, just reach out to Dr. Ryan Doyle and open a dialogue in Facebook Messenger. If you're listening on the podcast, hopefully by this time you're listening, you can actually open the show notes and find some links in there. So not just to the resources that were provided, but to also reach out to Dr. Ryan Doyle and to, check out other podcasts on this website. Cool, man. I want to really, thank you for being on, the podcast today. This is, I think this, one of the things, and we talked about this before we even started this discussion today, is we wanted to be transparent and talk about the reality of, shifting, we'll call it shifting from brick and mortar, shifting online, which is, by the way, I think something that a lot more professionals, small business owners, entrepreneurs are going to need to do to really start to master the skills of getting themselves online to be successful in business. So, I want to thank you so much for being on the podcast, but also for sharing all your insight.
And listen, thank you so much. And I appreciate everything that you have done, my friend, and the way that you're helping those of us that are climbing out of the brick and mortar. Appreciate you a lot. Thank you.
So you've heard the struggles, you've heard the successes, and this episode is done. But there's still so much more to come and so much more to learn. Head on over to thechiropracticphilanthropist.com and sign up for our newsletter, where you'll receive free practice building tips and strategies, including how to market your practice with your very own podcast and so much more. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Chiropractic Philanthropist.